Yo, good morning. Give me just a second while I keep getting this set up.
GM fam.
GM, sir. Let's
Hey,
see.
man. I'm grateful for you too, brother.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you for the in person. Um,
I wanted to do it in person just because I am so grateful for you, brother, and I love you, man.
bro, the funniest thing, I just grabbed my water bottle and I dumped it straight into my dog's water bowl. And I mean, I guess it works out.
I
Um,
love that, man. I love that. I got a puppy sitting right here with me too, man.
love that, my man. All right, a little bit slow getting this going. I apologize. I need to send out a couple more tweets. But what do you have going on today, man? By the way, don't think I ever got to talk to you in person after. How are things up in Tampa with the storm? Did you guys see anything at all from that, or did it, just a little bit of rain and outside of that, nothing crazy?
Yeah, nothing too crazy. A couple down trees, big oak tree across the street from my house came down. Had a couple shingles lift up from the winds, but yeah, man, we dodged a huge bullet, and my thoughts and prayers to everybody that's affected down south because they got hit bad, man.
Dude, it blows my mind. I've just been watching some of the videos from down there and absolutely insane what's going on. My heart just breaks for them with all of that because dude, that is not, you know, and like that takes time, that takes money. And dude, even some of those houses on the beach and the buildings and stuff, like that you have that, and say you've got like a new inlet that pops up. Like, what do you even do? Is it just a complete insurance write off at that point? Like, are you just completely uprooted? I don't know, man.
Yeah, I mean, the this happens, often in Florida around the Gulf. More recently, up in Nova Scotia, just it got decimated as well, and yeah, it's time to come together. It's a time to bring together those resources and rebuild, man. Strength comes from that too.
100%, man. Well, hey, I wanted to say really appreciated your daily posts for this month for the, just commemorating the 1 year anniversary month, man. Those have been pretty sick. You should pin a couple of those up to the top.
Yeah, for sure, man. I appreciate that. I'll do that every day until the 19th. Just trying to give back some vibes and some love that I've shared with other people and have had a big impact on my personal life through this experience, and I want to share it with everybody. So I appreciate that, Clay.
I mean, really, really appreciate it. Razik, my man, it has been a minute. How have you been, sir?
Hey, Kelly. Hey, Eddie. Hey, everyone. It's good to hear your voices again. Sorry it's been so long.
No worries, sir. No worries at all.
Great to
Life
have you up,
happens,
man.
man.
Yeah, life's just been getting pretty crazy. I had my parents came up to the UK to visit from Sydney, Australia, to visit the little one, the little their grandchild. So they were up for 6 weeks over the summer. It was just hectic. So I didn't really get a chance to do much else except entertain them. But life's back to normal now. So just normal routine, which is great. Looking at the Wonkies. I tell you what, though, 1 year still kicking along. So such a good thing, isn't it? Such a good thing.
100% agree, man. It's crazy how fast the time flies with that. Like, it does not feel like a year ago.
How many projects do you reckon have died since November 21? I mean, 99% of
Bro, I'd
projects,
say
Right.
98%.
thousands of them. Like, I don't even think I'm exaggerating when I say thousands, right? Yeah. We're
No,
we're
not
No,
at
not
all. Yeah,
I don't think
thousands.
we're to the point where we're at like the tens of thousands of stage yet, right? Like maybe so, but I don't think that the space is quite that developed yet that there really were tens of thousands that you could say, oh yeah, like that was a real one and blah blah blah, it died off. But like I'd say thousands is a fair medium number. Next cycle will be at the point where we'll be able to say like tens of thousands, if not 100,000 plus, like easily. By the time the next cycle hits, man, like it's going to be everywhere.
It really does speak volumes for wonkies in this community, though. I mean, just so strong, so stable. They just people love them, and I love them, and it's just great. I mean, it's as good a stable coin in the NFT space as you can ask for. So, yeah, I think it says a lot. So I think that's great. I am driving though now, so I'll probably listen rather than talk so much. But just to say, it's great to hear your voices, and I'm certainly going to be around a little bit more often, and hopefully we can resume this bull market very soon. So yeah, good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah. Well, no, go ahead.
I was going to say, no, I appreciate, you saying that about the Wonky, project, the communities, the LedgArt project that we have, because it's important to see this entire year as something that is a net positive in this space. I mean, this project, was delivered stealth to the world, free mint that sold out in under 2 hours, under promise, over delivered, never had a roadmap. And yet here we are still building these vibes together. So I appreciate you actually calling that out, brother.
No, absolutely. I'm sorry, Kelly. I was just about to say, and the good wonkies are getting rarer and rarer, aren't they? I mean, they don't pop up that often anymore. And if they
Yeah, man.
do, you're not going to see them on the floor. That whale capitulated a couple of weeks ago, but people kind of know what they're worth now. And yeah, the good wonkies just aren't popping up anymore. And if you want like a colorful one or a nice one, they're all rare. But if you want a nice one, you're going to have to start to pay for it. You can start to see. So yeah, I think it's a really good slow grind up, which is great.
Yeah, 100%, man. I mean, that's the thing. I think that it's been like it's just been enjoyable for me to see throughout the course of all this. Again, like all of y'all come together. Like what you guys are doing, Matt, with the Room 110 stuff. It's really cool to watch that grow. And bro, like I know that that's going to be massive here in the next few years. Also, like they're just lots of that type of stuff that's come out of this, and it's been really, really fun to watch that just continue to grow. And like knowing the origin of where all of that began, like it's awesome to see.
Yeah, 100%. Like that's another reason why I'm grateful for you too, is because I didn't know anybody in this space. I didn't even have a Twitter account until the day that this project was even launched. And I'd been studying NFTs for a while, never got into it, and that was my first mint. But the ripple effects that have impacted my life and other people's lives in here goes beyond this. It's fulfilling for your life. It's personal growth. There's just so many positives that you can really take home with.
No, I completely agree, man. Hey, and by the way, if you're in the crowd, you guys want to hop up on stage, feel free to do it. Like, it's a lot easier, I promise, in a smaller crowd like this than it is whenever I host some of the other spaces where I'll have like hundreds of people listening. And like, either way, I think it's easy, but I promise you, it's one of those things where coming up on stage, you just give yourself the opportunity to be able to connect and kind of branch out in a way that I don't feel like you get the full effect sitting in the audience. And like, obviously we love having y'all down there, but at the same time, like it's one of those things where, heck, Matt can attest. I don't think that, you really, really started to grow your roots in this space until you actually started hopping up on some of these spaces that I was hosting, right? Until you got up here and actually started to connect with the crew. Because before that, like when like I saw a few tweets, but a few tweets only go so far versus hearing the voice and being able to connect and dive in deeper past that, right?
No, I think that's what like built every connection for me anyway, was hopping into spaces. From my first couple weeks in, yeah, tweets here and there, but actually connecting and having that communication, that language, that verbal exchange, it really impacts the growth of a connection. I mean, hell, I think that's really how me and you even started vibing together, is just coming up on stage and speaking to each other. And 2 months later, I ended up meeting you in real life. I mean, there's so many opportunities to come up and have these experiences beyond just shooting out a tweet. So definitely encourage people to come up and have a conversation. I mean, and don't have any kind of fear. We're here to help you and guide you too, and carry the conversation along.
No, I agree, man. Like, and that's the thing. It's, you know, again, just watching how you blossomed out of it, and like, obviously, bro, you've got a natural talent for being able to connect with people, and not to say that other people don't have, that ability whatsoever. But I think that a lot of the time you don't even realize what's hiding there until you get up there, and even people like, hey, even if you're more quiet, like, dude, it's just a way to be able to dive in a little bit deeper. And again, if you're really looking to make an impact in this and not just be an observer, but eventually, have your hand in this space and help shape it, to grow into, like, you may not even have the idea of what you think that you're going to create from this down the road. But a lot of the time you'll be stuck in that place until you take little opportunities like that to get out of your comfort zone and to be able to connect with other people.
Well, isn't it all about getting out of our comfort zone? It's life in general. I mean, we set these little challenges up for us to overcome these things in life, and those opportunities just magically appear if we're showing up, we're staying consistent, we're trying new things. And it's okay to be in the back and not, want to come up on stage or do those extra things in life, but challenge yourself, man. It's empowering and it's fulfilling to try new things in life.
It is. So we got a couple new people up. What's going on, Stinky Duck? Welcome back, sir. How's it going?
I'm doing good, Coolio. Good to be here, man. Good to see you, Matt. Always love the spaces and love the conversations you guys bring. So thought I'd hop up and say hi.
Appreciate it, man. I don't think I've ever asked the question before. Where did the name Stinky Duck come from? And if you've said it before, I apologize. I just want to, like a recap of the story, because I feel like it's got to be a good one.
It's not the first time I've been asked that, to be honest. People are intrigued by the name, but it's actually a combination of two nicknames I had as a child, and I never liked them. My parents and my brothers would call me and tease me. Anyway, as I got into my teenage years, I started to realize you got to own those parts of yourselves, even the parts you don't like. So I combined the two. It became my gamer tag, and since then it's kind of carried on, and now it's my it's my Twitter presence as well. So, but the actual name Stinky, I used to sit on people's heads and fart.
No way,
That
oh man.
and then Ducky, I was stung when I was a child. I was stung on the lip, and my lip swelled to about 7 times the size, and so I was called Ducky, and both kind of stuck. So
Those are actually too amazing.
That's legendary.
No, okay, I've definitely never heard you give the explanation, because I would remember that. I would remember that in a heartbeat. Bro, that's the funniest thing about all of this, and using some type of, pseudonyms whenever you're up here rather than your real name. You know, like, we just have people up on stage, and it's just normal to be like, oh, yeah, shooting the show with Stinky Duck right now. Like, what's up? And it just is something like, like, where else is that just normal? If you met a guy, at the gym, and he introduced himself as Stinky Duck, you're kind of looking at him with a side eye, like, okay, interesting. Immediately questioning what kind of war story happened there to get that nickname, or like, are his parents really just that, maybe progressive is the right word in 2022? But on here, you have somebody like Stinky Duck comes up on stage, and bro, like, it is, what's up, man? Like, you're just there. It's just normal, and it can take 10 months to sit there and think to yourself, damn, like, I wonder if there's a good story associated with that handle.
I love this shit, man. Oh my god! You know, on the flip side of things too, we call each other stinky ducks and all kinds of weird names, and it's hilarious. But being out in public and actually, like, I was with B-Ways the other day, and he called me 80s, right? And I call him B-Ways, obviously. That's how. But we're also having a conversation about NFTs that are like a seal or a penguin or something, and you have two grown-ass men sitting there calling each other by their pseudonyms, talking about fucking cartoon pictures. Imagine the background, somebody listening to that.
Bro, that's the thing. Like, it does, it makes you question a little bit. Like, what have we really gotten ourselves into diving
Right?
into?
It's a simulation, brother. We entered that shit a long time ago.
It's a complete simulation, but at a certain point, you're just, like, it is normal, completely normal. You have
Right.
two worlds you live in. The world of Web3, like diving in here, with Twitter as the main face of it, and then the outside world. And, like, I would say that they mix well, but, Matt, you can even say, okay, after doxing yourself, have you really noticed a tangible difference in the way that you separate the two? Right? Because
Zero. Not at all.
yeah, like
Not
even for
at all.
me, going to conferences and stuff, meeting people, doing this and that, it feels a little bit different because you are kind of marrying and merging the two there. But I'd still say, even at a conference, even though you're meeting people in person and you're doing that, it almost feels like this world versus like the other one, right?
110%.
So sorry to go down that rabbit hole.
Now,
Love the
just to
next
actually,
thing,
yeah, just to comment on that, actually, because I recently doxed, a couple months ago in my Discord and on Twitter and everything for my project, and so the community started using those photos for various memes, and so they're like merging them together with like people with like mullets and like 1980s photos of like couples, and they're superimposing mine and another founder's face over them, and they're just like, a couple days ago, it was like literally like 30 they did all in one, and they were like doing like just a spree of them, and I started asking myself, why the fuck did I even dox?
I love it, man. I love it. Like that's my thing. Bro, I'm mentally preparing myself for all the memes that are going to come out of it as soon as I, dox again, right? Like, it's imminent. It's going to happen. Like Ledger, for instance, complete champion at that. But, bro, like, Ledger just gets blasted with the memes day in and day out. And, I feel like there is a certain appetite to be able to take those in tastefully and consistently and to be able to just, put a positive spin on all of it, right? And it comes along with the territory.
On the flip side of things too, with the PFP change and like coming out, I have noticed like, and this is more of like an observation, the engagement levels where if you don't have like a project PFP or something, like a lot of people within our little ecosystem that we have here between a few projects know who I am, but outside it's like, oh, you're in NFTs, but you don't have a PFP of your NFT project, so I'm going to shun you over here because you don't vibe with us. That is something that I'm starting to like notice a little bit, trying to connect to outside communities without having PFP. And that's something that we as a community should be able to embrace, whoever is doxed or not doxed too. We set a lot of rules in this space based off of certain people's opinions. And sometimes that can have, a detrimental effect to your connections or your networking abilities.
Do you guys think that the people in general interact with people that actually have a person on their profile picture differently than somebody that might have a PFP of a cartoon?
Well, sometimes it depends on what communities you're in or where you're trying to push inside of this ecosystem. Sometimes the herd mentality or the tribal mentality takes place, and I not so much so anymore. I'm talking about like past experiences in the space. Sometimes if you didn't have that specific PFP tied to that specific project, then people wouldn't mess with you, or they would think you're not, serious about NFTs. It's a tight knit culture that we have, and the more we expand on that and try to be a little bit more open minded, I think the more evolution of this space will grow for people that are going to be onboarded.
Yeah, and that's a good question, right? Because and like heck, I think B-Ways released a decent thread about that recently about kind of associating with different projects with your PFP versus something else. And, I feel like my account grew with this PFP, right? So, like, people associate that PFP with your brand. There's several other people that you can just definitively say, well, okay, like that is developed into your brand one way or the other. So it's like, even after I get my face out there, maybe I'll try my face as a PFP, but I kind of doubt it, man. Like, I just, I don't want, even when my face is out there and I'm, making videos and doing this and that, like, I don't know if that's like the brand that I'm going for, right? So I think it's all about, where have you kind of built your audience? Where are you going forward with it? And, you can play around with your PFP a little bit, but, I think it does become a little bit difficult when you're changing your PFP consistently because, it's like if you've got a friend from all the friends that you knew in high school and college, like the girls that got married off, and then you're checking back 5 years later and you haven't seen them in a long time, and you see a completely different last name, and you're like, wait, who the hell is that? Like, how do I know them? And you don't recognize them because they have a different last name. Like, now just imagine them doing that all the dang time. And it's difficult then to be able to keep track of who that person is. It's the same thing with like the PFPs, right? Like that's the identity people associate you with. So after you've adopted that for long enough, whether it is a project or something else, it becomes difficult to disassociate with that identity because people, start to get confused. So I think there is something to be said about some type of consistency in your brand going forward with as you're trying to build your presence in this space.
You hit the nail on the head, man. That digital identity and being consistent with it is something that I'm trying to do a little differently myself now. And I want to stay consistent with my PFP. I'm not trying to brand like, this big influencer thing, but I'm accepting who I am. And that's my personal, thing that I do. And not to say that to anybody else to not do that as well. But I feel like if you are consistent enough with having the same digital identity, people will resonate with that because they'll start associating that psychologically. Oh, this is this person with XYZ PFP. And 2 days later, if you change it to something else and then so on and so forth throughout the week, just keep changing it, people are, going to be confused. So I think you hit the nail on the head on that.
I think actually you're absolutely right. I mean, I will recognize when people change their PFPs. If it's one NFT to another, I may have liked their tweets before, but I might have scanned past it the second time after they changed their picture. But I mean, Matt, when you changed yours, actually, like I registered it in my mind a little differently because we knew each other, and then you put your actual photo out there, so it was different. Now I still recognize you for you. So I'll make that comparison. But I also wanted to share a quick story just with what Kalia was saying about your identity and having a last name going through high school. Reminded me. So I'm a project manager IRL, and I got a buddy that or a work friend that asked me to go take a look at his basement. So I went and priced it out. But it turns out his wife, who had obviously a completely different name, was somebody I dated in high school. So obviously I would have may have avoided that situation beforehand, but turns out, yeah, it just kind of blew up in my face. I didn't get that job, by the
way. Yeah, man. Sorry to hear that. Going back on the PFP thing too, like just because I don't have a PFP on there doesn't mean that I don't support these communities too. Like I understand the reason to grow the strength of a certain project or a certain community, show your loyalty to it, your solidarity with everyone in there. I can still, support communities and certain members of certain projects still on the back end without having to, have that PFP there. If a PFP is required for me to show support and be part of a community, then I may not want to be part of that community because of the certain rules.
How do you feel about having on Discord multiple PFPs per different community? Do you think it?
That's funny you say that because I don't have a lot of Discord servers that I'm in, but the few that I am, I actually do switch my PFP because it's such a different thing inside of Discord. It's a different way to. You're in an actual community in Discord. On Twitter, you're just in the realm, right?
Yeah, man. So I mean, like, I don't know. I don't get how some people keep up even with themselves internally, going back and forth through different PF. Like, you got to even think about it this way, though. Say in the NFT community, right? Like the hoodies for punks. I think that a big reason, and not to say the hoodies aren't badass, but like a big reason that the hoodies really started to gain a little bit more gravitas and, just people flocked to them a little bit more had to do with DeesFi and his role in, cultivating a lot of the influence, in multiple projects. And like that was his, the hoodie and the 3D glasses, like that was his identity. And it did end up kind of cultivating that hoodie movement to where the hoodies just became a little bit more of a prominent role than I really think they would have gained otherwise outside of that. So, I think there is something to be said about somebody that has like stuck to that brand and been able to cultivate it into something as they continue to grow their presence and their voice. The image that they portray continues to grow with them.
100%. It's their brand at that point. I mean, it's a beautiful part about the NFT too. I mean, you own the IP of it as well, and you can set that up as your own, your brand for life. And people always continue to associate that with you because that is who you are at that point. And the thing about identity too, like we shouldn't, like, I'm not saying us, but people in general shouldn't dictate like how you should live your life, right? Everybody has their own processes of things. Everybody associates their identity now with something that they may not truly know yet, but they're trying to find their identity. And I say just go for it. Just be yourself. If you want to rotate PFPs, do it. If you want to have your own personal, picture up there, do it. It's whatever you ultimately want to do. And if nobody accepts you for that, then you're not meant to be in your life.
Exactly, man. So, yeah. Anyway, B-Way, shout out to you for that thread because I did read that and it made me think a little bit when I did read through that. B-Ways, you've been putting out some fire content recently, sir. Just want to give you a shout out. If you don't follow B-Ways, give him a follow. Definitely
My man's going to be at like 250K followers next bull run. I'm calling it right now.
Oh, definitely. Oh, shoot. I didn't even realize. Yeah, he's back above 3K right now.
Let's
Not
go.
back above. I'm not saying he fell off beneath 3K, but
Congrats
he's
on the
above
3K, man. That's awesome, brother.
That is big.
He's been killing it, bro. I'm very bullish on B-Ways, man. B-Ways is a brother.
Matt, you're up there too. You're nearly there.
I'm nearly there. Maybe if I would have
it.
kept my profile picture to something, I would have gone.
Well, hey,
I'm joking.
Here's the deal. Not just that, bro. I mean, if you didn't step away for those 2 months, I bet you would be, right?
Dude,
Like,
I
so,
lost
you got a little bit to catch up with that.
200 followers when I was gone.
I mean, that happens.
That was crazy, man.
Yeah, but here's the deal. I understand what you're saying. 200's not like insignificant whenever you're at the 20-something hundred. Like, that's nearly 10%.
I know.
What talking about there. Like,
it's pretty big. But since I come back, I've gotten 200 back, and for me,
Matt, I lost 200 yesterday.
Yeah, right.
I took a couple of days, for you, took a couple months off, like you lose 200. Me, I
Yeah.
took 2 days off. I lost 200. So,
Like, fuck this guy. He's not putting out
exactly.
anything anymore. I don't need to follow him. No, that's wild. Speaking about followers, because you've put out some really good fire threads too about followers and people trying to gain a little bit of a little bit more of an evolution in this space with a follower account. For me, that's something I've always struggled with because I'm a man of different, I guess, opinions of things, and I've never really done social media up until coming into Twitter, really that strong. And for me, the smaller accounts, there's so much knowledge in these smaller accounts. So I don't understand why people don't follow some of the people with smaller accounts more often, but then they end up turning into bigger accounts. So I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about.
No, okay. Here's what I think the difficult kind of mix you get here is, and Kobe actually said something about this recently too. He said some of his favorite follows and the people that are, prominent, like that have some of the best takes, are some of the people that actually came about in this last bull run, right? Like not necessarily the people that are the OGs that have been around forever, right? Because, like it's easy to get complacent, I think, sometimes whenever you have been around long enough for one of like three main reasons, right? Like maybe you've reached this level of success where you've just kind of taken a back seat, and along with that success you have to kind of change your content a little bit, blah blah blah. Like that's one. Two is, yeah, maybe you have absolutely killed it and you're just bored, so you step away, and you don't have the same hustle that you had whenever you were a smaller account. And three, maybe like shit's hit the fan and you're just tired of the space and you've left. So, a lot of the newer accounts that are on here that are a little bit smaller are pumping out this fire stuff, in the hustle to be able to prove themselves, right? And, I think that's one of the things that can be a little bit dangerous as you grow your brand a little bit is, you've got to be able to challenge yourself to not lose the hustle. And I think that can happen if you're not careful. So yeah, I think there are a lot of people with, lower follower accounts out there that are just putting out fire content. And, it's just one of those things where it's difficult to get your moment, right? To be able to break out and to have your moment in the sun, whatever it was. For me, actually, the thing that finally put me over the edge and got me noticed by, some of the larger accounts that helped me grow my brand is I had this one, insanely accurate thread where Gainsey, noticed it, gave me a follow and shouted out like, holy crap, like this is crazy. And got a lot of, I went from like 8,000 to 15,000 followers in a day. And which was insane for me because I'd been stuck at 8,000 followers for, a couple of years. And then from there, and like it wasn't that my content had changed. It just took, kind of a right mixture of, the market was going in a good direction and the right person noticed me. So they brought their engagement over, and immediately from there brought other people that had big engagement over. And it kind of just, snowball affected into the bull run. And, like that's what it takes though. Sometimes though, literally months before that, putting out those type of threads where you're not going to get anybody that notices. And, you've got to, kind of put your head down and just like have a passion for it, honestly, because if you don't have a passion for it and you're doing it for that immediate gratification, like you're not going to last. So, find what you're passionate about, be able to put that out there, and, eventually it'll find the right voice, and it'll find the right ears and it'll follow.
Well, you mentioned something about the immediate gratification aspect of it too, and it brings me back to like, what's your goal here? What's your intention for even being on Twitter? Is it to build content or is it to vibe with people? So there's different varying degrees of like what your engagement is in this. I mean, for people that are trying to build a following, there's a lot of time and energy that is put into creating content. Just putting together a good tweet, it takes time to learn. And when you go through the reign of this, like, it gets to the point where you will get burnt out if you're just looking for that immediate dopamine hit of a like or a retweet or something like that. Just stay consistent with quality over even the quantity, and you might actually start seeing a different change in your engagement and the way you make connections and who you actually end up networking with.
Yeah, I feel like a big struggle that people, or a big thing people struggle with on here is they see somebody that they really like, right? And they try to mimic their content. And rather than creating something original, they're trying to mimic it. So, like, why would you want the knockoff whenever you could have the brand name, right? So, maybe that's why a lot of people end up struggling kind of finding that connection. Just have your own voice, right? Like, make your voice into the brand name. And that's something that, again, eventually, like, people want the brand name. Make people want you for you. Don't try to be somebody else, because the more that you try to be somebody else, honestly, like, when I see knockoff versions of whatever, hey, sometimes it's great, but like, when you can get the brand name for free, why do you want the knockoff?
All about authenticity, brother. Be your authentic, true self, man. And sometimes the way that the sentiment is in this space is a little bit that of pressure for an individual to compete with. But there is no competition. The only competition you have at the end of the day is yourself. And if you are passionate about something, just start going with it. You may not get engagement right away, but if you stay consistent with good quality, your time will come. Crayola, brother, how you doing, man?
What up, what up, what up? How y'all today? Doing all right?
Vibing, man, vibing.
Doing better than you, man. It sounds like somebody's coming after you.
Dude, yeah, the cops, man. I'm out at the intersection. They're coming for me. This is my last space ever. I love y'all. Y'all take care.
Legend.
Nah. So, question for y'all. So you were talking about like follower count and that sort of thing. While the number is not important to me, I'm a person that likes to set goals. And so for me, like a fun one has been, hit 10K by end of year. Now, whether or not I ever hit 10K is to be determined. What's funny is, like, even when I bring my most original content, it's like that meme that, like, I'm making a banger and I got no likes, right? And I would like to think that a lot of my stuff is original, but what's hilarious is you're right. Like, I got way more engagement and, like, 200, 300 likes on my chain link charts from during the middle of the bull run, like, last year, right? And that's where my whole account started, was literally, like, if you look at my first tweets, it's like 300, 400, 500, up to like 1,000, 2,000 tweets about Chainlink and the chart and what they were bringing with oracles and that sort of thing. And yes, I kept my crayon, and that's why I eventually switched over to the crayon, Mr. Crayola. And Kaleo's just going to have to accept my brand, man. Like, you're just going to have to let me be, let me fly. I'm a peacock, okay? And so I guess what is it now? Because I've made those excuses on down days. I'm like, all right, it's got to be the algo. Like, there's just people, or people just don't think I'm funny, or I'm hilarious and they just don't get it, so it's on them. Like, what is it to get to that next step? And when I'm trying to reach the 10,000, really from my perspective and from my faith perspective, I want to be an encourager and somebody that lifts people up. So I want more followers to basically spread light and like love and joy and stuff. So what is it? What am I missing? What are some like tips, tricks y'all have? That sort of thing.
Well, you'd probably have to ask the man with 500K followers, because I'm sitting a smidge under 3,000. So I do want to ask a question, though, and this is actually a good case example here, a use case. Crayola, you have an even number of followers to following. Kaleo, you're sitting at under 1,000 but have 500K. Like, what is your determination of how you follow? It sounds like Crayola follows people to get follow back so he can continue spreading love and light. Kaleo, what's your vibe, brother?
Bro, I won't even lie. There was a period where I went through, and there were a few days. This is back in 2018, where I was like, well, And one of the only ways I'm going to gain followers is if I just follow a crap ton of accounts. So I had like 2,000 followers. I followed like 5,000 accounts, and it got me like 500 followers. But then I was like, okay, my feed is now absolute trash, utter trash, and I hate it. So then I had to spend, it's a lot easier to follow accounts than it is to unfollow. So then I had to spend like another month going through unfollowing everybody because I was like, I hate myself for doing this.
We need that, dude. We need that automatic button. It's like if somebody doesn't follow me, it's an automatic drop. Like it needs to be a one click. Anybody that doesn't follow you, you can wipe them. Right?
See, that's a horrible mentality to have. I'm sorry. I just got to say it. Go ahead, Colette.
I agree with that. Right? Like, so overall, here's my twist to that, Crayola. Like, you shouldn't follow people just to get the follow back, right? Like, you should follow people for the content that they provide. Like, that's why I do. I follow less than 1,000 people because I don't want to flood my timeline with a million different, like, whatever, I like.
No, I get that. That's why I'm late. Like, I've already made the mistakes. So now how do I wipe that quickly and then reset
Yeah, there's no quick way to do it, bro. You just have to go through and start unfollowing them. Like, and it'll take you hours. There might be a bot to do it, but I didn't know about it. I would just spend days, man, just going through, like, killing time at work. I had nothing else to do at the office. I'm like, well, I'm going to go ahead and start unfollowing people. So, yeah, there was one period of time where I was stuck in that boat. And, like, now I've got it narrowed down. Like, when I approach 1,000 is the point where, I'm like, okay, there's probably a lot of people now that have gone inactive or done this and that. I need to go through and just see, like, and clean it up. So I'm about 50 follows away from cleaning up my follow feed again and unfollowing people. But, I think it's one of those things, again, where, you want to be able to tie yourself in, and, you shouldn't just follow accounts in the hopes that, oh my God, they're going to follow you back. No, do it because they provide you some type of value, right? Like,
my favorites are the one that follow you, and then when you don't follow them back, they just stop following you. It's
well,
like,
actually,
why are you here?
You want to know the funniest example of this? And nobody really knows this, but I remember when BitBoy created his account. So BitBoy created his account, early 2018, I think. And he started off with just doing cartoon comic strips. And, he would make these BitBoy cartoon comics. And, like, they were what they were. They were okay. But he'd go through and just, he'd get up to whatever the max limit that they let you follow is, and then unfollow, and it took me forever, at that time to give him a follow back, and eventually I did, and then I realized one day he unfollowed my ass, and I was like, okay, well, blah blah blah, and then, I ended up following him back one day, and it took me years later before I was like, wait, what the hell? This guy somehow blew up on another platform and got to be a big, voice out of nowhere, but, like, bro, I am not even joking. That is how he started, was just relentless following and unfollowing of millions of accounts, or tens of thousands, I'm not even joking, of accounts to be able to get himself some type of following. So he actually didn't buy any followers to start off. Like, I don't think so, at least. There are a lot of people where I'm like, in a way, did he get them in a weirder way, right? Like, maybe not an authentic way by producing, the content, right? Like, yeah, but, they were real followers, because I think there were real people that saw this account and just followed back, versus a lot of people will go and buy to be able to start off. So, different hustle, I guess, it ended up working for him. But, like, that is the funniest thing, is that a lot of people that have zero clue back in the day, like, that dude ended up going through and just following, unfollowing, because, bro, whenever you're a smaller account, like, you notice every single person that follows you. So it was very easy to keep track of that process happening.
Another part of it too is, like, the way I see it now, navigating and learning Twitter a little bit more. In the beginning, I was, trying to make connections with people. I still am, always will be. More so lately, like, the more followers I do have, or the more people I am following, you're right, the feed gets a little overwhelmed with certain things. One of my biggest things is, if you are an account that just constantly retweets giveaways, That's something that like for me, I understand what you're trying to do. Like you're trying to get a free NFT. But at the end of the day, I just don't feel like you're adding any value to the space in that respect. So, but on the other side of things too, we are all human beings. I mean, given Twitter has a shitload of bots, but at the end of the day, like you can decipher who has true intentions in the space, who is here to grow, who's here to make intentions that ripple around the ecosystem for us to grow too. So just my 2 cents on that.
A question about that too. So you talk about just being yourself, right? You talk about the burnout, and I do feel like here recently I felt, well, like a couple months ago I felt a lot more burnout. Now I don't, and it's because I got back to the things that like I like doing. It like, and if anybody vibes with it, great. If they don't, whatever. But it's still fun for me. I feel like refueled. So like for me, making those silly charts and like drawing and stuff, like that's fun for me. And you know, Kaleo hasn't told me that, man, your TA is trash yet. So I think I'm doing something right. But yeah, I get to work and I get to
That's
learn,
hilarious.
and the more that I, you know, that I draw and I learn and I try different techniques, it's a lot more fun for me. And then, you know, I get like one or two likes, but you know what? I want the one or two from people that follow me for me and nothing else. So yeah, I guess all the things you are saying is true, and I'm starting to see that more. So that's cool.
Yeah, the burnout of like the grind, the constant grind, that takes a major impact on our evolution of just trying to stay not stressed out sometimes. I remember before I left for Peru, I was, I had a lot of personal things going, but I also wanted to go to Peru to meditate and evolve a little bit more. But coming back, I've kind of like done that you're doing right now, Corella. I'm starting to do things that impact me and make me fulfilled as well, and hopefully with my intention with it is to make other people fulfilled as well. And you don't have to always constantly grind for other people and to pump other people's bags in this space. We're in this space right now in a very early stage, and if you stay here being your authentic self every single day, you're going to meet the right tribe of people to vibe with in this evolution that you're here for.
Appreciate that, Matt.
No problem, man. Kaleo, man, tell me about the wedding, brother. How did it
Oh,
go?
dude, it was solid, man. Solid. Good to have. I'm glad it's passed too. It's fun hanging out with everybody. But dude, one of the things that I got a little bit stressed about right before was, I didn't write a speech. I had like little bullet points of different things I probably wanted to talk about, but I don't write things down like that. I just don't think it sounds authentic when people do it. Like you can obviously tell when people get up for those type of things and they become really monotone and then they get stressed out because they forget to say something they wanted to say or they didn't say it the way they thought they should, and then they're like freaking out, nervous. So I just do better about ad libbing. I mean, I do it all day anyway. So, but then there were a lot of people that were starting to give me a hard time, like, "Oh, you need to have something written down. I can't believe you wouldn't do that for your own brother," and blah blah blah. And it just became something that it became a weight as it got closer. Like, oh, shoot, maybe I actually should have here. Am I going to have something to say? Am I going to do this well enough? So, yeah, got up, knocked that out, ended up being all right. But, it was funny how kind of the voices in my head started getting to me a little bit as that came up. But, and then also obviously you got a little bit nervous for the brother himself as the thing approached. I'm just sitting there like, wanting everything to go well, and thankfully it did. So, it was fun hanging out, catching up with the family, taking a couple days away from, anything with the charts, screen, anything else. And so overall, everything, it was good, man.
It's awesome, brother. I love a good wedding, man. It's always fun to. Did you guys party? I mean, did you guys have a good time? Reception? What? Tell me the juicy details, man.
Dude, the reception was great. I actually really didn't drink too much throughout the entire weekend. I just felt better. Like, I don't know, man. I think maybe because of stress, whatever else, like, had a little bit of a headache, so might have been dehydration. I don't know. I can have a good time without any alcohol. I enjoy drinking. Don't get me wrong. But in that, I mean, heck, I didn't drink for the first 21 years of my life. I didn't have any until after I was 21. Believe it or not. But so I know how to have a good time without alcohol. It's fine, man. But later on in the weekend, there was one night I did end up, turning up a little bit with some of the family, and that was fun. But it was just a good time hanging out and catching up, connecting with people. So that was the most important thing for me this weekend. And I don't no real juicy details. Thankfully, I feel like that helps make it a better weekend. So yeah.
All
That's
right,
awesome,
what's your drink of choice if you had to pick one?
I mean, let's see. Drink of choice, bro. I love a good Bullet or TX Coke. So TX is kind of like Crown. If we're just talking simple drinks, that's it.
That's all. That's awesome, man. I love that.
But
I love how people associate, and I'm not saying you, but the general society. I didn't even mention alcohol. I said party, and automatically associated with alcohol. I don't drink alcohol. I mean, and if I do, it's a very rare occasion, like when B-Ways comes to Tampa. But of course, you can have fun and party and dance around and just have a good
yeah,
time without it. Yeah, man, I vibe with that, bro.
bro, that was the most fun thing was watching my mom, get down on the dance floor. That
Yeah,
was
man, that's fun.
hilarious, man. Seeing her in the circle with all the other young adults out there. So that was
Because
a good
in that
time.
moment, it's pure joy. There's no worry about anything. Everybody's in that present moment, vibing together, and it's always incredible to see that with family. And then your parents too, just everybody vibing. I love it, man. Great to hear.
Exactly, man. So now just kind of taking it easy. Heck, actually, let's see. Coming up here on the schedule, I might be in Asheville here in a couple weekends. So hope that happens
North
because
Carolina, let's
yes,
go.
sir. Beautiful, beautiful area. TBD. Still figuring out whether or not the girlfriend might have some work stuff up there. So waiting to hear back on that.
I'll be up in
Was it
Asheville at the end of the month for 8 days. After our wonky anniversary, I'm heading out for eight
nice,
days.
bro?
So
I know
if,
you've spent some time up there. Beautiful place. What
I
are you
love it,
doing?
man. We rented a cabin and we're just gonna unplug, and you know how I do it every 3 months or so. Just take a break and go relax and balance myself, and probably do some hiking, check out some waterfalls.
Hey, heads up though, if you're near Black Mountain, my wife's family has a house that they built in the 20s. And so we try to go every year. There's a place called My Father's Pizza that we go to relentlessly, and it's amazing. If you like pasta and pizza, it's in Black Mountain.
It's awesome, man. I don't even know what mountain I'm going near, but somewhere outside of Asheville. My wife plans her shit. I just go.
Yeah, man. So doing that, then have F1 coming up the weekend after. So I'm excited about that up in Austin.
It's awesome, man. Well, I'm gonna head out. It was
Yeah, man.
real.
I've enjoyed it. Appreciate it. Love love everyone in the Wonky family. We'll be back here on Friday. I'll make it happen this week. Sorry again about things getting pushed back this weekend. It was a rare occasion to make that happen, but glad we were able to get this time in and catch up. So,
All right, Wonky fam. Much love. Enjoy the week. Be present. Be your authentic self. Love you guys.
take it easy.